Hello, my name is Carmack, and as an animator who's worked on multiple Mr. Beast videos, I'm going to be breaking down 5 of Mr. Beast's most engaging visual effects and motion graphics that you can now use in your own videos. I'm going to show you how to animate dashed lines, showcasing a direction or a path that someone has to take. How he does the incredible animated circle splashes, highlighting a person, a thing, anything. I'm going to break down how we do the most engaging version of Mr. Beast's on-screen text, light sweeps that highlight something important, and how to track anyone's name, Instagram information onto the top of someone's head. And before we get started, I have to let you know that this video is sponsored by my sugar daddy, Squarespace. So effect number 1 is how to animate lines into a scene. You can see here, you can use it like this, showcasing the path of a golf ball, and like right here, showing the path of a golf ball after it's been hit. Mr. Beast used this effect in his videos to showcase a path that someone needs to take, a direction an item is going, or showing off a barrier between 2 groups of people. This is a very useful and engaging way to showcase a divide or a direction. So I'll be breaking down how I made this animation right here, showcasing the path you would take on this windy, curvy road. So once you have your footage, the first step is incredibly easy. We'll come up to the top of After Effects, and right here we'll grab the pin tool. Make sure you're selected off the original clip, or you're going to end up making a mask on the clip. What we want to do is click off of our clip and create a shape layer. So you'll see our shape layer right here. We're just going to rename it to line. And what we're gonna do is use the pin tool to create a line that goes through our scene. So what we're gonna do is click on our line layer. We're gonna drop down the layer, and under contents, we'll drop down shape. Right here under stroke 1, we're gonna drop that down, and you'll see right here we have this option for dashes. We're gonna click this plus. Now you can see that it's created these dashes, but these dashes are too thin. We do not want that. So what we're gonna do, so if you crank up this dash number, it's going to increase the thickness and length of your dashes. And then you just have to pick what size you like. I like this right here. That looks really good. But they're still not moving or being animated. So how do we do that? So under the line shape layer, you'll see right here contents. And right next to it is this add button. We're going to click on that. And right here, we'll see trim paths. We're going to select trim paths. With trim paths selected, we'll drop that down, and you can see a start and end button. If you crank up the percentage of the start, you can see that our line disappears over time. So this is the feature we're going to animate to make the line pop on the screen. But you can see start is actually making it come from the bottom to the top. When you crank up the end percentage, it actually starts from the very bottom, which is what I want to do. So what we're going to do is start our end percentage at 0. We'll create a keyframe. And if we go over like 3 seconds, we'll just crank up the end percentage to 100. So if we watch that back, you can see our line is slowly starting to form. Now this is how you animate the line into your scene, but if you watch the Mr. Beast reference footage, you'll see that the line is actually moving. Even after it's being animated onto the scene, it's like the dashes are moving forward. So to achieve that effect, what we're gonna do, right here under trim paths, you'll see offset. So we're gonna create a keyframe for offset, bring it to the beginning of the composition, and then just animate the offset to move a bunch. And because we want the line to be moving for the entire scene, we're just gonna drag this second offset keyframe like further back. So the line, so you can see here, the line is always going to be moving. So when you play that all together, you can see our line is animating onto the scene and then continues to move after it's being animated on. So if I select these trim paths keyframes, right click, and Keyframe Assistant and Easy Ease, then we can use a curves graph to make it start fast and end slow like this. This is the kind of curve you want for an idyllic line animation. So if we watch that back, it starts fast, but it'll end slow. Very gorgeous. And then in classic Mr. Beast fashion, the way you spice up this line is you select the layer, you go to Effects and Presets, and we're just gonna type in Glow. And once you grab the glow effect, we'll drop that onto our line animation. We're gonna crank up the radius and the glow intensity. So you can see we're adding a glow to these lines. And now we have animated line animation that you can put into any scene. So now if we wanted to create this version of the line animation where you can clearly see the beginning of the line starts really thin, the middle is really thick, and the end is also really thin, I'm gonna break that down. So I'll grab our pen tool and make sure we're not selected on any layer, so we create a shape layer, and I'll see where the ball starts. I'll create my first pinpoint right here. And you can see when the ball is at its highest right there, I'll create a second point. And just for the sake of visibility, I'm gonna make the stroke width really small. And you can see the ball land right there. So now I have the entire pathway of the ball animated as represented by this line. So now I'll crank the stroke width up. We're gonna drop this down and select on contents and shape. We're gonna select on stroke and twirl down this arrow so we get all of these different options. And the one we want is taper. So I'm gonna drop down taper. And you can see all these different options. If you click on start length and you crank up the percentage, now the beginning of this line is now sharp. So this is at 0%, this is at like 40%. And same with the end length. If we crank the end length up, now we've created this great effect where the beginning of the line is thin, it's thick in the middle, and thin at the end. So now, in contents, if you add a trim paths, and you turn the end percentage to 0, create a keyframe, and after she hits the ball and the ball lands, we can now crank the end percentage to 100. And I'm just gonna create a sequence of keyframes to have the line match where the ball is. And so if we watch that back, it looks like this, showcasing where the ball is in the air. And so that is how you achieve the line animation that they use often in the MrBeast videos. Effect number 2 is what I'm calling the animated circle splash. MrBeast uses this in his videos to highlight an impact of something or showcase a specific thing in the scene. Kind of like a really good location indicator, but also just sells the impact of something cool. For example, here, I use this effect during this tennis match to show where the ball hits the ground before the other player hits it back. Or back to our golf reference when someone gets a hole-in-one, showcasing that the ball went into the hole. So how this effect works is you have to go to Layer, New, and Solid, and just hit OK. And in Effects and Presets, you can actually type in the effect. It's literally just called Circle. So I'm gonna bring Circle onto our black solid. You can see here we have this circle, but over in the effect controls under Circle, right here you'll see Edge. Instead of a None, we're gonna change it to Thickness and Radius. So now you can see we have an empty circle. And in effect controls, you can change the thickness to animate how big you want the circle to be, and also the radius on how wide you want it to shoot out. So that's how the circle effect works. And really quick, since the scene is moving, I need to 3D track it first. So I'm gonna get rid of this circle for now, 3D track the scene. Now you can see we can add a target anywhere. And why this works perfectly for us, right here where it's flat against the court, I can right click on this target and create solid and camera, which is perfect because you need a solid to animate the circle. So I'm gonna take this solid and scale it up and then go back to effects and presets where our circle is already typed in and just drag that on top of our solid. So now we have this circle 3D tracked into the scene. And what I want to do with this animation is highlight every single time the ball hits the court. So remember, we're gonna go to Edge and change it to Thickness and Radius. And we'll change the thickness to how big we want the initial circle to be, like this. So I'm gonna find the point where the ball hits the court, which is right here. And I'm just going to put the circle with the tennis ball in the very middle like this. And what I'm gonna do is create a keyframe for radius, and I'm gonna bring it all the way down to 0. And over a few seconds, I'm gonna change the radius to be really big, like this. So if we watch that back, we have a circle that just grows out of nowhere. Now it's super important to make this animation cool, and the way we do that is we select our keyframes, right click, keyframe assistant, and easy ease. And we want this circle to come out super fast. And the way we do that is we go to the curves graph, and we grab the first handle and make it really high up. So if we watch that back, you can see the circle comes out super fast. So right here, the ball hits the ground. So we're just going to move the keyframes to start when the ball hits right there. Bam, so as soon as the ball hits, the circle shoots out. Now to make this perfect, because we don't want the circle to stay in the scene after we've made our point, right? So the keyframe right after the radius keyframe, we're gonna create one for thickness. And then over the course of the scene, by the time you reach the second radius keyframe, we're just gonna change the thickness to 0. So it's gonna look something like this. The line eventually disappears, but we're gonna select these thickness keyframes and easy ease them as well. I'm actually gonna start the thickness keyframe up a little bit so it happens a little faster. And you just have to mess around with those two sets of keyframes to get a size and effect that you like. And I think this looks really good. I could even maybe start the thickness a little bigger. So maybe we'll start the circle like this. And if you want this splash to happen sooner, we'll grab these last two keyframes and drag them close. So when you watch that back, you have your circle impact when the ball hits the ground right there. And you actually notice, for some reason with the circle effect, even after you've changed the thickness to 0, there's still a little bit of a line left. You see it, it just stays there. So after I get to the point where thickness is at 0, I just cut the end of the frame. So it looks like this. And you've got a perfect circle animation. And in the circle effect, you can actually change the color to be whatever you want. I'm gonna change it to green to kind of match the tennis vibes. And then of course, in effect effects and presets, we can just throw on glow. Crank up the radius, maybe the intensity. Actually, let me make a cooler color. Ooh, yellow is super nice. And bam, that's how you make the animated circle splash. And you can use it in complement with the line effect. Like right here, I animated the circle to showcase that the ball went into the hole. Or like right here, I have the circle shooting out once the golf went into the hole. Effect number 3, I'm affectionately calling the light sweep. Mr. Beast uses this when he wants to highlight an image or a thing in a video, like here. And right here in After Effects, you can see I've applied it to this Lamborghini. Whoa! And also in this scene with the Egyptian pyramids, if we watch that back, it's just cool. Like let's say, these are the Egyptian pyramids! So I'll show you the example with this Lamborghini footage. It feels the most Mr. Beasty. So for this clip, we're gonna need a mask of the object you want light sweeped. So I'm just gonna duplicate my Lambo clip, come up to the top, and we're gonna grab our roto brush tool and just mask away our yellow Lamborghini. And you know, once you've masked your whole scene, to freeze your mask, you have to hit this button right here, freeze. That'll lock all of your edges into place. So if I solar a mask, it looks something like this. So in effects and presets, we're gonna type in light sweep. It's literally the name of the effect. And I'm just gonna put that on top of our mask, and you can see you automatically get this glowing line. Over here in the effect controls, we're just gonna crank up the width and the sweep intensity. So now our line is thicker and brighter. So we're gonna grab this little point that controls where it is and just move it all the way over here off screen so it's not affecting our mask. And I'm gonna create a keyframe for center, hit U to drop down where your keyframes are, and just over a few seconds, I'm going to grab this little light sweep controller and bring it all the way to the other side of the frame. So we have our light animated just like that. That actually looks pretty incredible. And the way I like to spice this effect up, of course, is right-clicking on these keyframes and easing them. And then in the curve graph, we can do something like this. So kind of enter slowly, and then bam, that's our light sweep animation. It's actually the easiest one I'm gonna show you today. And of course, if you wanna spice this up, you can see right here under light color, you can change it to whatever you'd like. So maybe it's green, blue. You can pick what color you want. Let's try this teal. That's kind of a Mr. Beast color. That looks super awesome. So that is how you do the light sweep effect for Mr. Beast videos. For our fourth effect, I'm gonna show you how to do the engaging subtitle effect Mr. Beast uses that are usually tracked into the scene. It's almost like the text is getting typed on, but the text is shaking, emphasizing just, you know, engaging motion. Right here in this scene, I have a dude getting hit in the head with a paper. He goes, ow! And it's tracked onto his scene, and then the second guy goes, got you! And you can see that the text is shaking, but it's also tracked onto their head. It's a very cool effect. Maybe the most engaging way to do subtitles. So we're gonna select on our clip and go to tracker and track motion. We're actually gonna go to rotation and scale. So we're gonna check rotation and scale right here. It's gonna give us these 2 points, and we're gonna track the guy's face. What worked really well for me is ears. I always love tracking ears. And you can see the side of this guy's glasses has this little white nubbin. So I'll select those 2 points, the darkness of his ear and the brightness in his glasses, as our tracking points. And if you just hit analyze forward, you can see it's doing a pretty good job tracking the position and rotation of his face. So now I have this great tracking data of his face to apply to any kind of text. So what we're gonna do is come up to layer, new, and null object. And over here in the tracker panel, we can edit the target, and we're going to set it to null 10, which is the null I just created. We're gonna hit OK, and over here in the tracker panel, hit apply and OK again. So you see that red box on his face? We can apply the text to this, and it's gonna look super cool. So I'll grab our text layer, and I'm just gonna type in, ow! Exclamation point. Maybe I don't need that many W's. And by the way, the font Mr. Beast uses is called Comica Axis. And it's free online, you just have to Google it. I'll link it in the description below as well. But in a lot of these videos, you'll see that it's got a black stroke, so we just wanna make sure that our stroke is cranked up. So now let's put the text over his head where we want it. And then if we grab the parent and link tool of the text layer, we can attach it to the null object. So once it's connected to the null object, you can see that it's like perfectly tracked to where his head is. So what we're gonna do to animate this on the screen is in effects and presets, we're gonna type in type writer. This is an animation preset for text layers, and if you put that on your owl layer and you hit U, you can see these 2 keyframes. We're gonna bring them close together so it happens kind of fast. So he gets hit in the head, and then the typewriter animation types out the ow. So if we watch that all together, he hits him in the head and he goes, ow! Wow! It's honestly super incredible and such an engaging way to do subtitles. And then you'll notice in a lot of Mr. Beast videos when he's using this effect that text is shaking like crazy. So the quickest way to do that is on our text layer. If you hit P to drop down our position value, if you hold down the Alt button and click on this stopwatch, you can type in the expression wiggle. I'll do 20,3. So it's gonna wiggle 20 times at a position value of 3. Actually, I'm going to change the 3 to a 10 and see what that looks like. So now you see that the owl is shaking pretty fast. Actually, just to emphasize the effect, if I take off the parent, so it's just standing there, once you add the wiggle position, the text will just shake like that. And sometimes the shake can be distracting, so if you don't like it, you can just take it off. Because sometimes when Mr. Beast does the shaking effect, the text isn't tracked to someone's head. And then finally, to perfect the Mr. Beastie look, we'll go to Effects and Presets and type in Glow and put that on our text as well. Crank up the radius. And now we have a really engaging, ow, subtitle. And then I rinse and repeated that for the second guy. And you can see how the Got You is following the rotation of his head. So the final effect is simply tracking important information onto someone's head. This effect famously was used in his cave video. Every single time a new celebrity would come into the scene, he would track their name and their player icon on top of their head. It's got a lot of use cases. For example, here in After Effects, the example I made is we have these two people skating down a mountain, and I tracked player 1 and player 2 onto their head. So you have a really good visual of who's in the lead and who is who. I mean, look at this. This just makes the scene instantly more dynamic and sick. Or like right here, I have this basketball player and maybe his name is Jack, or maybe his name is player 1. Or you could do like a cool CCTV animation like this. Right here, I'll use this basketball player. And just like in our last effect, we're gonna go to Tracker and Track Motion. And instead of checking rotation and scale, we're just gonna leave it on position. And I, like I said earlier, always like to track ears. So I'm gonna track his ear like this, and just analyze forward. Ears always have the perfect shadow, so you can see here, it's just gonna track really well into the scene. Once you have his head tracked, we're gonna go Layer, New, and Null Object, and we're just gonna edit the target to be the null object, which for me is null 11, hit OK, and apply. And once you've gone through the whole scene and tracked it, you'll see the null object is perfectly tracked to his head. And then to create a cool little player tag, we'll come up to the Shape Layer tool and we'll create a rounded rectangle. We'll make something like this above his head. Right now it doesn't have a fill color. I'm gonna add a fill color. You know, I'll make it white and I'll make the stroke color red. So right now it's not doing anything, but if you grab the parent and link tool and connect it to this null object, now you can see that it's going to stay above his head for the entire time. We can grab the text tool and we'll do, I'll just call this guy Mr. Beast. Beast! And then we're gonna grab our Beast text and just link it to that same null object. So now we have Beast tracked onto this man's head. And once you have all the assets right here that you like, we can spice this up by even selecting the null object in these two layers, right-clicking and pre-compose. I'm just gonna call this Beast tag. So now we have this one layer tracked onto his head, and if we go to Effects and Presets, we can add Glow, crank up the radius, and in Effects and Presets, we can type in Venetian blinds right here. If we put that on top of the layer, in your effect controls, we'll change the direction to 90 and crank up the transition completion a little bit. And right here under width, we can make the width really small. So you can see we kind of are creating these small digitally lines. These are just some cool stylistic things you can do. And so now we have a cool animated player tag that's on top of this guy's head. And this could be the dude's Instagram, this could be his name, it could be the player number in the game that he's playing. And so that is how you do the Mr. Beast head tracked effect with information. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. I will respond to everybody. If you leave a like on this video, I will send you a care package of pure love. And now that we've learned all this juicy Mr. Beast goodness, it's time to thank my incredible sponsor, Squarespace. I have to introduce to you Squarespace's Design Intelligence. You might not know this about me, but I have the biggest collection of vintage life magazines in the world, and I want to create a site showing off this American history in a really pretty way. And so with Squarespace's Design Intelligence, I can create a website that looks perfect and vibey. So with these vintage magazines, maybe some cool vintage looking shapes to show off some covers, a nice color scheme that really matches the dark tones of these magazines. And if I need some assistance, they have award-winning templates. So I actually have a lot of duplicates of these vintage magazines, and I want to sell them as collector's items to other people. And what's amazing about that is Squarespace has online stores you can create. So if you have products, whether that's jewelry, plants, vintage magazines, you can create a beautiful online store with Squarespace. And even better, Squarespace Payments is endless. They have all the popular payment methods like Klarna and Afterpay, all the buy now, pay later options. And if you don't think Squarespace is incredible yet, well, how about the fact that they gave me a code to give you for 10% off your first website or domain. So go get a discount on creating a website that will bolster your image as a professional. Really, anybody can benefit from having an amazing website. So build it with Squarespace. Where there's a will, there's a way. My name is Will, and have a nice day.